Welcome to the initial offering of the hostage report. I am going to discuss the terms of my existence based upon how I got here and hopefully discover a plan of action that might catapult me into another stratosphere through some derived wormhole or teleportation device using modern technology and the connectivity networking of modern society. We're going to call this the St. Louis Hostage Crucifixion Epic Saga because this has been going on for a number of years. So I started digging into the motive of what is keeping me basically stuck in as Bubble Boy. There was a film John Travolta did about a character named Todd Lubitsch who was basically had no resistance to any infection, and he lived in a bubble, the boy in the bubble. This was done way back in one of his early pieces, but that's sort of how I feel as far as I've been living in a captive state bubble because of a lack of competent resources or assets to derive transit into any competent scenario to perpetrate any of my plans. I've been stuck spinning my wheels, starting gate of the horse track, not able to run the bench warmer that's watching while I pay a lot of the salaries in my theoretical estimation. We're going to delve into that. The basis of how I got stuck here goes back to genetic hacks. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the premise of Hack-a-Shack, but when Shaquille O'Neal was at LSU, the opponents used to hack him, and so he'd have to shoot free throws in order to, because he wasn't a good free throw shooter, and if he got the ball in the paint, he was going to score. But what happened, the reality, the alternate universe Hack-a-Shack was, I was hacked, my genetics were being hacked in a similar sort of manner. But this was sort of like the Britney Spears through the back gushing blood, and they've sort of become addicted to this. Who knows? This is all spoken in some cryptic tongue that I concoct, and we're not sure. And I guess we'll let the factions of the populace decide what's faction or factual or what is real. And I'm not really sure. Like I said, my motive in all of this for many years has been deriving an avenue to create something that I consider. I'm not even sure what. And we're looking in the art realm, but there's all sorts of interpretations of that. So my genetics were hacked. And so what it's like is if you get a mainframe computer network and you hack it down into pieces and you expand, sort of like they found a big pool of energy and then they started they basically speared me, it would be like a drill, and they started extracting liquid and distributing it. And they're all hiding this under the auspices or the, the shadow gains of energy. But there's so many ancillary, subsidiary, parasitic benefits that have, because of the slave nature, the hostage nature of this opens the door to widespread extortion. So there's a company called Marathon Oil, and then there's a company called Marathon Musical Electronics. So the Marathon Oil justifies the Marathon Electronics of the music industry. So you've got energy, one type of energy and another type of energy. And what you do with it, that's where it gets into the mad scientist, alchemist. But what it's basically doing is validating a form of counterfeiting using the true blood vernacular of generating rank. Um, that's why I call this the St. Louis, because of the St. Louis Cathedral attachment and drilling rank. So it would be like they're piling on it's a lasagna sort of scheme where they attach this one person of high rank and then they pile on top of it in order to access or outrank others in a poker hand. But it's all sorts of wild cards. I mean, it's just massive pile-on wild cards of all shapes and sizes. There is no, I mean, it's basically whatever shape. The game change. It's like the basketball rules, but it adds in just about any game or scenario you can um, justify. Any angle that you can infiltrate is basically what's going on. And like I said, this might be fact or this might be fiction. There is a ton of synchronicity, coincidental evidence over the past century that has created an aroma for the animals because we are exposed. When I say hack-a-shack, there was Shaquille, but then there was Shack. We've been forced into a shack and exposed to these hacks. And so we're basically living out in the woods, a high-value, well-known target. And we'll discuss all of that. And it is documented. Um, but so it basically anybody can walk up and plug into the main. It's like public access nuclear power mainframe that anybody can plug into and utilize in any number of ways or arenas. The question is the legality of it and the gambling of the entirety of the system because of too big to fail, I mean, just way overboard with the number. And in actuality, I am literally a slave because I garner nothing from this. I am unable to access anything. I have been trying to access the media for a number of years to investigate, which they seem to be investigating, but I'm still stuck in this bubble, unable to escape and accomplish any realistic form of life. Basically, my life has just been dwindled and wasted away into where I really don't have a lot of options. It truly is. I feel like I'm in a coma. It's like the Being John Malkovich scenario where they timeshare out. It's like timeshare of my organs or the distribution of the V blood from true blood. As far as on some angles, they're trying to play the freedom of religion card, and on some angles, it's energy. On some angles, it's pharmaceuticals. On some angles, it's plastics. And on some, they're playing all the angles. On some, I mean, the problem is its public exposure. First of all, and there's really no justification. There is no governing parameters of it. It's just chaos is what's going on. And I am getting the shaft in all of this. And it does seem to be because of the expansive nature of this. I mean, it could be deemed or seen as counterfeiting in some realms. So I'm producing the counterfeit, and then I'm also used to launder the counterfeit because the blood authenticates the counterfeiters in these synthetic correlation distribution channels. Theoretically, like I said, who knows? It's an interesting story. It could be a really interesting um, novel, but I can't even get to where I can talk with anybody of any credibility because I'm stuck in my bubble here. My solitary confinement of handicapped to inferior, the use of inferior tools or resources basically I started out and I got hacked and buried. Basically, I was speared and then hacked, and my body was hacked into pieces and then buried way down deep. Then they melted me down and started drilling me up and then started refining the parts and the chop shop and all that sort of stuff in a metaphorical, macabre sense of the word. And like I said, there's so many angles based upon this exposure of, and they're trying to use precedences and percentages, playing angles and all sorts of things. And I'm just basically stuck here, unable to defend myself. Um, the media has buried the story, and for the most part, I have been blacklisted to a degree, shunned, unable to generate any. My motive is generate enough revenue to protect myself from exposure, basically to get out of the woods and to try to doctor myself back to health. Because in my estimation, I'm suffering from malnutrition atrophy because of overloaded parasites and poisons to the system. See, since I am a source, what makes me sicker makes the derivatives healthier. So it's this yin and yang balance of me, and it's the extremism. One of the hacks was this an extremism parameters, an inability to basically what it's done is it shifted the genetic mainframe to an ultra populist driven side. It would be like the bears and the bulls. Well, the bulls have kidnapped the bear and have distributed all the bear assets and are keeping, and so the bulls are in control and they're driving. That's a metaphor of what, in my estimation, is going on. So it's gone to extreme bull mob herd mentality ideologically. If you look throughout society, that is characteristically prevalent. While the bears are the source of the power, it would be like kidnapping a cop or hot wiring a fleet of law vehicles is in one interpretation of what could be said was going on. And the mob has become able to act in any number of ways in modern society because if the populace decides in any faction populace which can be programmed by fickle fleeting trends that are easily generated through media brainwashing, it's easy to create factions to think a certain way in order to justify through precedents based upon populace rather than the logic of science and real economics, which, if you look at the global economic scheme of things, somebody's got to be paying the yin and the yang, the supply and demand, the bear and the bulls here, and there's a whole lot of fingers that could be pointed. So we're going to end on that note today and start thinking about this. This is just the basis of my existence, and I'm not sure exactly what I hope to accomplish out of this other than trying to my motive is, like I said, to generate enough profit from my work to get out of the woods and protect myself from being hacked and speared to death and bled dry. Like, because in my estimation, I would be considered like a drug lab or a energy source. There's a number of methods theoretically in which I'm used, and there's an inability for me to protect myself, and that's my motive in all of this. So, signing off from the St. Louis hostage crucifixion epic saga, Genesis Volume 1.